Have you ever wondered why billions of dollars are spent just to entertain you? Do you really think it's about your happiness? What if I told you all this entertainment isn't freedom, but a carefully crafted cage, built to keep you and everyone around you from ever looking behind the curtain? Because the truth is darker than it seems. The very things you run to for escape are the same things quietly trapping you, not by force, but by giving you pleasure you can't resist, engineered to keep you distracted, addicted, and ultimately obedient. A system designed not to break you, but to make you a willing slave to your own desires. For centuries, power has never needed chains to control people. It only needed distraction, something that people actually wanted. This isn't new. It's ancient, long before screens, before algorithms, before endless scrolling. There was Rome, an empire so powerful, yet so fragile. Because its people were starting to think, they questioned leadership, they felt inequality, they began to see cracks in the system, and that is always where danger begins for those in power. But instead of silencing the people with violence, Rome chose something far more effective: distraction. They gave the public two things: food and spectacle. They called it bread and circuses. Free grain to keep bellies full. Gladiator battles to keep minds occupied. Thousands would gather in massive arenas, watching bloodshed, drama, and chaos unfold in front of them, completely absorbed. And while their eyes were fixed on the arena, power moved silently elsewhere. Decisions were made, wealth was controlled, influence shifted, and the people, they cheered. Because a man who is entertained does not question. A crowd that is emotional does not think. A population that is distracted is easy to control. Now stop and really look at today. The arena didn't disappear. It evolved. Your arena is digital, endless content, sports rivalries that divide millions, celebrities whose lives feel more real than your own, shows designed to keep you watching. Episode after episode, hour after hour. You don't even need to leave your bed anymore. The circus follows you, and just like in Rome, it feels harmless, even enjoyable. But that's exactly why it works. Because the most powerful system of control is the one you willingly participate in. No one forces you to watch. No one forces you to scroll. No one forces you to care. And yet, you do, again and again. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He didn't just study power, he dissected it. He knew rulers didn't need to crush their people if they could control their attention, because attention is where power lives. Control what people focus on, and you control what they ignore. While you're arguing about teams, someone is making decisions that shape your future. While you're emotionally invested in fictional characters, real systems are being built around you without your awareness. While you're entertained, you are not observing. And if you're not observing, you're not resisting. This is the quiet truth most people never confront. Society doesn't need you in chains. It needs you comfortable. It needs you distracted. It needs you just aware enough to function, but not aware enough to question. Because the moment you begin to question, the illusion starts to crack. The moment you look away from the circus, you start to notice the strings, and that is dangerous, not to you, but to those who rely on your blindness to maintain control. Now think about this. Why is it so perfectly designed for you? Why is it always available? Why does it feel so hard to look away? Let me tell you something uncomfortable. Once you hear it, you'll begin to see things you were never meant to notice. Most people would rather be comfortable than strong. Think about it. Every day you're given options that make life easier, more convenient, more entertaining, more soft. It feels good. At first, the pleasure is immediate, the reward is instant. But comfort has a shadow. It's designed to keep you small, to keep your instincts dull, and to make sure your mind never sharpens enough to ask dangerous questions. You see, society doesn't need you strong. It doesn't need you questioning. It doesn't need you challenging the norms, disrupting the patterns, or seeing what others refuse to see. What it needs is exactly the opposite. It needs you dependent. It needs you distracted. It needs you weak enough to accept convenience over courage, comfort over clarity. And here's the truth most people refuse to face. Weakness is rewarded. Not publicly, of course. No one applauds the man who ignores his potential. No one cheers the person who chooses depth over ease. But quietly, the system bends in favor of those who surrender to comfort. It's in your bank account. It's in your schedule. It's in your habits. Every small decision you make that favors pleasure, ease, or distraction over effort and insight. It trains you to obey without realizing it. You don't feel the chains. You only feel the warmth of the blanket, the glow of the screen, the sweetness of escape. Until one day, you notice something. You've stopped moving forward. You've stopped questioning, and you've stopped feeling capable. And the world? It continues, shaped by those who are awake, while you stay comfortably asleep. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The people who need you weak don't want to fight you. They silently fear you. And that's why they do whatever they can to make you love your chains, to rest in them, to defend them, and to never dream beyond them. Because as long as you accept weakness, as long as you choose comfort over challenge, they don't need to touch you. You're already theirs. Here's a truth nobody wants to admit. You're not enslaved by others. You're enslaved by yourself, not by laws, not by politics, not even by economics. You're enslaved by what you crave. Every distraction, every indulgence, every fleeting thrill you chase, it's not harmless. It's a leash. And the tighter you grip it, the more controlled you become. Think about your daily habits. How often do you scroll, binge, or seek comfort instead of confronting the truth about your life? How often do you sacrifice strength for pleasure, clarity for distraction, reality for illusion? Each choice seems small, insignificant, but combined, they form a pattern. A pattern designed not by chance, but by centuries of observation. Humans are predictable. Desires are predictable. And when your desires are predictable, you are controllable. This is the subtlety of real power. The people who hold it don't need to dictate your every move. They just need to provide what you want, exactly when you want it, and you will follow willingly. You will obey. You will protect the very system that cages you. Here's the uncomfortable part. The more pleasure you chase, the more obedient you become. Not consciously, of course. You feel alive, entertained, satisfied, but in reality, you are playing a role written long before you were aware, and while you think you are free, the system watches. It adapts. It feeds you what you desire next, inch by inch, habit by habit, until your attention, your energy, and even your thoughts are quietly owned. The chains are invisible because they are of your own making. Your desires are not just weaknesses. They are the mechanism of control itself. And until you face that, until you understand that pleasure and distraction are not neutral, you will remain trapped, believing you are choosing your life, when in fact, your choices have already been designed for you. Niccolo Machiavelli spent his life watching power, not as a spectator, but as a surgeon examining every artery, every pulse, every weakness that keeps men under control. He didn't romanticize leadership. He didn't celebrate morality. He saw the world as it was. Human desires, fears, and distractions are the true levers of control. And he realized one of the most effective strategies of rulers isn't brute force. It's keeping people weak, dependent, and unaware. Not through chains or swords, but through the careful orchestration of wants, pleasures, and distractions. Machiavelli understood a fundamental truth about society. People are easiest to control when they believe they are free. When your mind is occupied with constant desires, when your attention is consumed by comfort, entertainment, and the small, meaningless gratifications of daily life, You stop asking the questions that matter. You stop noticing the mechanisms operating behind the scenes. You stop realizing how your choices are subtly guided, molded, and anticipated. In other words, weakness is not only allowed, it is engineered. Think about the world you live in. Every notification ping, every new show, every trending news story, every viral scandal, it all competes for your attention. These are not accidents. They are systems designed to occupy your mind, to make you addicted to fleeting pleasure, to ensure you remain comfortably numb while decisions that shape your life are made elsewhere. Machiavelli would recognize it immediately. Controlling the desires of the masses is far more efficient than controlling their bodies. If people willingly embrace distraction, obedience becomes a side effect, almost invisible to the victim. But the lesson doesn't end at observation. Machiavelli also reminds us that the tool of distraction, the harness of comfort, is neutral until you encounter it consciously. Pleasure, entertainment, and ease are not inherently evil. They become dangerous only when they are allowed to dominate your life without reflection. Every time you choose indulgence over insight, ease over effort, or fleeting gratification over enduring strength, you are participating in your own subtle enslavement. And most never notice it until decades have passed, until habits have calcified into obedience, until the weight of unnoticed chains becomes undeniable. The uncomfortable truth, the one Machiavelli would quietly whisper if he could, is this: the powerful don't fear you because you lack strength. They fear you the moment you recognize it within yourself. Because awareness, once awakened, can't be distracted indefinitely. Clarity pierces through the noise, focus refuses the games, and attention turns toward truth. And when that happens, the system built on weakness trembles. So the question becomes personal. How long will you allow your desires to dictate your life? How many hours, days, years will you hand over to comfort, distraction, and meaningless pleasure before you look behind the curtain? The power is never entirely lost. It has always been your own to reclaim. Machiavelli's insight was simple, yet terrifyingly accurate. Weakness is useful until you stop letting it be. And the most brutal reflection is this: society doesn't want you strong, awake, or questioning. It prefers you comfortable, entertained, and obedient. But it can't stop you from seeing. It can't stop you from thinking. The chains are invisible, yes, but they are only effective if you never notice them. The moment you do, the game changes. You stop being a participant and start becoming a threat. And that, ultimately, is the awakening Machiavelli hoped we might all achieve, if we dare. Think about that. The very pleasures that feel harmless may have been your jailers all along. The moment you see it, understand it, and refuse it, you step into a freedom that no distraction can take away. This is the legacy of awareness, the quiet rebellion of the mind, and the ultimate truth Machiavelli left for those willing to look. If you want to keep seeing what most ignore, subscribe and keep your mind sharp. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.